What if I told you only need 280,000 in cash or CPF to be able to buy a $1 million property? My name is Randall. Today we are going to explore a property journey of a 28-year-old that I recently just met to actually look for his first property. Before we get started, do help me like this video so it can reach to more people. Thank you very much. Here are some things that I'll be sharing with you today. Number 1, what are the challenges for a single buyer to purchase a property today? Number 2, is it safe for you to buy a one-bedder in today's market? Number 3, what's a proper game plan for you to future-proof your portfolio? So to share with you some context of the buyer that I recently met, he's actually a gym instructor planning to buy his first property as a single, where he actually wants to move out from renting from someone and move to a unit that he can actually pay himself in a mortgage format instead of renting. So it actually helps him to build his long-term portfolio. Point number 1, what are challenges that single buyer face when entering a property today? For this part, I've actually broken down into 2 pointers, which is the monetary challenges and also the friends and family objection. So right now, we're going to talk about monetary challenges. Overall, in the monetary challenges, for most first-time buyers, most of us do not have the down payment to enter a property itself. So for myself, I've actually been through this path where I bought my first one-bedder unit back then in 2018, which I actually shared further in my previous video on my own journey itself. So this challenge itself that many people face, right, actually is how do you raise your first pot of gold to actually enter into a property. So let me take an example of conservative example, because earlier on I talked about $1 million, but we do not want to be over leveraging ourselves and we wanted to be more prudent. So based on the 800,000 property purchase, we actually require to place up a 221,600 inclusive of cash and CPF to enter the property itself. So most of y'all actually do have a lot of CPF savings that is accumulated across time when you start working. So with this itself, you actually count this together with your cash amount. That's what you require to enter the property. So in this challenge itself, most people do not have a proper plan to actually raise this amount. So whenever I meet my friends to help them plan out their own property journey itself, I will actually share with them that today you actually can have little plans. For example, every month you save about $3,000 to $4,000. You actually can hit your target of a certain amount you require to enter a property. And of course, secondly is that you may also seek help from other sources like your relatives or even your parents to actually help you to kickstart your own property journey. Where my own purchase of my one-bedder, I actually reached out to my parents to actually help me with my first down payment itself. So for the next step on the friends and families objection itself, what most buyers as a first-time single buyer face is that why do you want to enter a property right now when you can actually wait till 35 to buy a HDB? I think many of you do face these questions from your friends or even your relatives to actually ask you, why do you want to leverage yourself so much today? So in this whole step itself is that I always would share is that time is something that we cannot get back. Even for myself, I'm right now only 33, but I personally went through 3 property cycles to actually reach my current state of a 3-bed unit in Lentor Mansion. So without entering the unit back then when I was 27, I couldn't have achieved such a huge portfolio increase as of today. So many of this is that it's about understanding how the plan works and share that with your friends and also with your family as well to actually get them to understand whether they can be on board with you on this whole journey as well. Point number 2, is it safe to enter a one-bedder unit in today's market? So before we look further into whether or not this one-bedder is able to enter, we must understand our Singapore income levels. So along the way, with the incomes, right, it actually determines how much loan you can actually get when you buy a property. So onto this itself, we have to actually decide whether or not are we following the income of the masses. We have to look at the average income of the whole economy in order to determine whether this pricing is worthwhile. So in order to determine whether the pricing is worthwhile, we have to look at how the income is correlated to the pricing. So today, my own advice to you is that if we look at a one-bedder, we do not need to exceed 900,000 because, for example, if we are looking at a 1.2 to 1.3 million, the income cannot support the property purchase because a single income earner only has a limited budget that he can work with on top of the down payments. So the second important thing is that when we look at whether or not this unit, right, you can actually exit in the future, we have to understand a little bit more of the progressive wage model that was crafted by MOM. So this progressive wage model is very important in a property journey itself because we have to understand where our next few years of income will be. So progressive wage actually targets a few sectors, for example, the security sector, cleaning sector, and a few others as well, where it's a progression of income, where the government actually pushes up the salaries of the lower income earners. So along this journey is right, we have to understand that in the future when we sell, we have to look at who is able to buy from us. So in terms of their salary, they also have to increase as well in order to afford the loan that they were to pay to us to actually sell to them. So as income rises, what do you think will property prices be? Would it continue to go up or maintain at today's value? Do leave your comments in the comment section below on how do you think progressive wage model affects Singapore property. So if you like this video so far, do feel free to like, share and subscribe to my videos. So in this itself, what's the proper game plan that you actually have to have when you exit a property? Why does it always pay to upgrade? Upgrading is actually something very important. When we look at a long-term scenario, right, initially we can only afford a one-bedder. But the thing is that along time, our salaries also increase. So along the salary increases, our loan also increase. So with this whole journey itself, we are actually able to afford a much bigger property end of the day. And importantly is that if we talk about per square foot sense, right, when we talk about selling in the future, we actually have a larger floor plate for us to actually have the proper increases. Because a one bed is only about 500 square feet versus a two bed maybe it's about 700 square feet, and subsequently a three bed at 1,000 square feet itself, where the increase actually is much more marginal, that you can actually see a proper growth in your portfolio. So if we talk about a 5-year plan, we actually have to look at what is the next point that we actually look at exiting. For myself, when I exited in my property journey, I took it as a 3 years plan. But for most of my plannings, for my friends itself, we do not want to look at it too quickly as well. Because for me, when I paid the SSD, it wasn't that cheap. Okay, so with this is actually very important. It's always about recycling your capital to actually enter the next property. So in conclusion, a one-bedder, is it safe to enter in today's market? If the one-bedder is below $1 million, to me, I still feel safe in entering this project itself. But however, if the project is above $1 million for one bedder, I personally feel it's a bit risky. Because at $1 million, you can actually top up a little bit more for buying a 2-bed, 2-bath unit, especially in today's market. And a 2-bed, 2-bath unit is much more safer, especially because you are able to target families to buy from you in the future. Again, if you like this video, do like, share and subscribe to this video and hit the notifications bell if you want to get notified for more videos that I'll be uploading next. Cheers everyone.